new song on a new record. And my mom is here, my grandma is here, my uncle is here, and all of you are here with us tonight. So let's start.
Hi friends! So, okay, I knew I'd have to get into My Chemical Romance eventually on this channel because they're like my lifeblood. But I also didn't want to spend another like 5 months doing a comprehensive documentary because that's kind of hard on a girl. And also, I feel like I'd have to cut a lot out of their story to make it into like a semi-compact thing and not like a 16-hour saga. I feel like no one really needs that. So I thought instead I would break it up into a little series looking at each album era individually and giving each album the attention it deserves. Okay? Okay. Today we're starting at the top with My Chemical Romance's incredible first album from 2002, I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love. So let's get into it. So as many of us know, the band My Chemical Romance was first formed shortly after the 9/11 attacks in 2001. A young Gerard Way, at the time working as an intern for the Cartoon Network in Manhattan, was on a ferry across the Hudson on his way to the office when the planes hit the Twin Towers. Side note, when this happened, he had recently pitched the network an original animated show called The Breakfast Monkey, a story about a Scandinavian monkey who's a superhero and also, you know, loves breakfast.
World famous Spanish wrestling man!
Sí, ¿cómo está usted?
Oh, silly man! Your language makes no sense to me. Would you like some eggs?
Ah! You turned my head into a stack of pancakes! For this I will destroy your city!
But unfortunately they passed. A sad day for monkey and breakfast fans everywhere, but a huge turning point for the emo community. Witnessing this horrific act of terrorism really lit a fire under Gerard, motivating him to quit his 9-to-5 as an underappreciated cartoonist and do something that could really change the world. He wrote the song Skylines and Turnstiles in the next week, the first ever written My Chemical Romance song about the horror of the attacks, with evocative lyrics like, "And after seeing what we saw, can we still reclaim our innocence? And if the world needs something better, let's give them one more reason now." Determined to start a band, Gerard called up his friend Matt Pelissier and soon after recruited Ray Toro for lead guitar, a pro guitarist who was brought up on sort of a flashy heavy metal style of electric guitar. He was also brought in because Gerard just like couldn't play guitar and sing at the same time, and this became an issue. Gerard's younger brother Mikey was actually the one to suggest the name My Chemical Romance, inspired by the title of an Irvine Welsh novel titled Ecstasy, 3 Tales of Chemical Romance. Mikey actually worked at Barnes & Noble at the time, so that's where he got the inspiration there. So, armed with a new name and a handful of songs, Gerard, Matt, and Ray recorded their first demo CD in Matt's attic. This is now referred to by the band as the Attic Demos. This collection of songs included Our Lady of Sorrows, under its original title Bring More Knives, Cubicles, and Skylines and Turnstiles.
You're not in this alone. Let me break this awkward silence. Let me go on. A fucking tunnel that's a single black mistake. My fucking hand will never be afraid again. I think I die alone. I think I love to die. I think I love to die alone.
And Mikey was so impressed by these initial recordings, and he had just dropped out of college, so he decided to join the band. These demos got the attention of local hardcore record label Eyeball Records, who also happened to be working with the band Pensy Prep, fronted by one Frank Iero. Frank was immediately enamored with My Chemical Romance's sound, calling them his favorite band. And when Pensy Prep broke up in 2002, he joined My Chemical Romance as the rhythm guitarist.
This is him. Our sweet baby. Our sweet baby.
Gerard called him the extra dynamite their sound needed, and his visceral, fast punk style really complemented Ray's technical guitar prowess. This was just a few days before the band was slated to hit the studio to record their first album, I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love, and thus Frank only features on 2 of the 11 songs, namely Early Sunsets Over Monroeville and Demolition Lovers. This album was fully written just 7 months after the band played their first ever show in October 2001, and was produced by local scene legend and fellow Eyeball Records alum Jeff Rickley of the band Thursday. And listen to this, even though Jeff was technically scheduled to be out on the road with Thursday when My Chemical Romance was recording, they were so set on having him produce that they scheduled his only free week between tours to come help them out. They had actually already known Jeff from just around the New Jersey music scene. Mikey was the more sociable brother, so they had met at parties and they would sometimes joke about his dorky older brother who stayed at home drawing comic books. But as soon as Jeff and Gerard actually met, they became fast friends, and their belief in My Chemical Romance's sound only strengthened that bond.
It would, like, he would ask me, well, you're saying this line, does this line mean anything to you, or what do you want to mean by this line? Like, you're really saying this, so why don't you deliver it in such a way? He taught me about holding back a lot, because I was just always going over the top. It was basically like hanging out with one of your best friends for 2 weeks and making a great record.
The album was recorded at Nada Studios, a teensy little setup owned by John Niclario and run out of his mother's basement. They'd periodically have to stop recording while his mom vacuumed upstairs. And in their free time, the whole gang shared a hotel room and goofed around, drank, bonded. And luckily for us, there's some shaky home movie footage of this whole experience put up honestly relatively recently by the Nada Studios YouTube page, who just like said they figured some people would want to see it, which is like the understatement of the year. Like the whole fandom blew up at this adorable young band footage.
About your pears.
Yeah,
Contains a slightly different variety of Royal Riviera pear that you may have become accustomed to.
Mixed nuts.
That you may have become accustomed to.
I'm so used to the old school pear, I don't know if I could deal with a new pear.
It was also kind of a chaotic recording process as they improvised techniques to get the best sound out of the band. Like, okay, for instance, when they were going in to record the vocals for Vampires Will Never Hurt You, Gerard was kind of in a weird place because he had just gotten dental surgery on an abscess in his tooth. So he was on painkillers, and the band noticed that the painkillers made him like super groggy and out of it, so it was impossible to record. So what they did was they hid his painkillers, which made him understandably even more grumpy. And so as the story goes, the founder of Eyeball Records, Alex Saavedra, went up to Gerard, gave him a big hug, punched him in the face, and then said, "Now go sing." And it worked, getting Gerard into the most authentically riled up, dark place to go and really like wail his heart out on the track. Gerard was red in the face. He wanted to kill because he was so mad. He went and sang and it was so intense. He was on fire. He did it in one take and it sounded like venom. It sounded like someone wanting to tear himself apart. The punch was motivational. It was an act of love, I think. I was very jittery and real nervous. There was a really crazy atmosphere and I knew I only had about an hour to do the song. He came up and gave me a hug, then he punched me in the mouth. I was fucking riled. I went up to the mic and nailed it the first time. Masculine aggression. It works sometimes. Around this time, My Chemical Romance started playing shows at venues like the notorious Big Daddies and offered free song downloads on their MySpace and Pure Volume pages, just really like slowly building up a dedicated fan base. This album was categorized in a broad range of genres when it first came out, from emo to punk rock to post-hardcore to even like heavy metal. It was hard to really encapsulate the frenzied rawness of their sound, especially under the alternative rock umbrella that it was originally sold under. If you tried to play this album on any given alt-rock radio station, you would definitely get some angry phone calls, I'll tell you that much. I'd say hardcore punk is probably the best way to describe this album, even though any like genre category feels a little reductive. So as much as this album doesn't have as much of a clear-cut storyline as later albums like The Black Parade, Bullets is definitely somewhat of a concept album. Most believe that it spells out the story of two tortured lovers, think like Bonnie and Clyde, who are eventually gunned down in the desert. Gerard is definitely a fan of like high concept albums where there are certain plot points that keep popping up, but it's really up to the listener to decide how they all connect. So most songs deal with love lost between two people, but the situations vary. From having to kill your girlfriend because she's a zombie to having to kill your girlfriend because you're in a drug-fueled haze. Long story short, it's a horror album. There are also issues of substance abuse that come up in some songs, most likely stemming from Gerard's real-life battles. The song Honey, This Mirror Isn't Big Enough for the Two of Us is an example, where the narrator is pushing someone away partially due to these issues. for some more quick notes on important song themes. Vampires will never hurt you. The narrator implores his lover to kill him if he ever becomes a vampire because that's how much he wants to protect her. Drowning lessons. The narrator keeps reliving his guilt over his lover's death. This song also ties into the themes of the next album, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, when it mentions 1,000 bodies piled up. In that album, a man makes a deal with the devil that if he kills 1,000 evil men, then his love will be returned to him. Also, I know this is a lot of info. I'll cover this more in the Revenge breakdown, but stay with me. Our Lady of Sorrows. The narrator calls for his lover to trust him so that they may be saved, to take my fucking hand and never be afraid again. Headfirst for Halos, a personal favorite of mine. This song is where the refrain, "Think happy thoughts," originates. And actually, when I met Gerard Way, like way back in the day, I had him write it out for me in his handwriting, which like, so good, so special. It's a really dark song actually, kind of about ideation with a peppy feel that contrasts this sentiment and mirrors a mentally unhealthy person trying to convince themselves to think happy thoughts while in the depths of despair. Skylines and Turnstiles, famously the first My Chemical Romance song ever written about Gerard's experience witnessing 9/11. Early Sunsets over Monroeville. This song is based lyrically off of the horror film Dawn of the Dead, wherein a couple is trapped in a mall during a zombie apocalypse, and a man realizes that he needs to kill his girlfriend because she's been bitten. Some of the best lyrics on the entire album, in my opinion. This song just builds to like a devastating crescendo. It's so beautiful.
There's no room in the dance, and I made this to finish, and I left this to rest, but to fail, but just be what can, and if I had the guts to put this in your head, does anyone notice?
This is the best day ever. 2 lovers meet in a hospital and they're trapped there, but they allude to their eventual escape together. Aww. Cubicles. A shy guy is working a boring desk job and he really liked his one coworker, but he never got up the courage to tell her that before she left the job, and now he's pondering his own mortality. You know, the usual. Demolition Lovers. A couple drives into the sunset, dying in a hail of bullets as he professes how much she means to him. With lyrics like, "All we are is bullets, I mean this," and "Like a bed of roses, there's a dozen reasons in this gun." Like, this is a top tier My Chemical Romance song. And actually the album art for their next album, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge, is called Demolition Lovers, and it shows the two in a bloody embrace. For a band's debut album, this one was on a different wavelength. They were able to combine all of their individual influences as musicians into one terrifying punk theatrical record that was unlike anything else in the emo scene at the time.
It all started to make sense. Now I know why we're here.
They also accessed tenderness and vulnerability in songs like Early Sunsets and Demolition Lovers, really showcasing all their skills in this tiny burst of an album that really blew everyone away. When tour manager Brian Schechter noticed them kind of performing around New Jersey to promote the album, he saw something special in them and became their full-time manager, helping them get the attention of Reprise Records, who would later sign them in 2003 and put out their next album, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge. But that is a story for next time. So that is the end of my deep dive into the Bullets era. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. It honestly means the world. And stay tuned for the next installment of My Chemical Deep Dive, where I will geek out about 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge. Maybe I'll even don some revenge gear for the occasion, who knows. If you're enjoying my content so far, it would mean the world to me if you would like, subscribe, or comment. It helps me out so much as a smaller creator. I have been Nina. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.